So all season we've been staring at David Moyes, naturally, but the people that haven't been are Everton. So we're going to speak to Everton fan and Liverpool Echo Everton correspondent Greg O'Keefe. Greg, hello.
Hello.
Nice and formal, wasn't it? So have you been surprised with how David Moyes has done this season?
Yeah, I have to a degree. I mean, it was always going to be a hugely difficult task, I suppose, to go into a club like Manchester United, take over from a legend of world football in Alex Ferguson and continue that success. And I think it didn't take a genius to realise that it was going to be a transitional season. I guess the degree of which it's been transitional and some of the results have shocked me. Just given how much Moyes was respected as a coach and a manager on Merseyside, I might have expected it to be slightly less traumatic, if you like, for United. But I do think there's a lot of mitigation there. And, nonetheless, it seems like a lot of United fans are still behind him. So getting back to the original question, I was a little bit shocked. I was.
If we look at Everton's squad last season, United's this season, and the fact that it's pretty much the same team that won the Premier League, with the exception that we've acquired Fellaini from the start of the season and now Mata, would you say you're surprised that the team has done quite so poorly compared to last season, as he's spent a lot of the season saying we're going to get new players in, we're going to get new players in? Should he have done better with these players, considering what he's worked with previously in his career?
I think it's more. It seems as if it's been like a sort of perfect storm, in the sense that when he came in the summer, obviously it was new manager, new chief executive, and that was very much an untried and untested relationship. And he's trying to work with Ed Woodward to get their targets. Now, obviously, David Moyes is one of his big pluses while he was at Goodison, with his acumen in the transfer market and his ability to unearth bargains, do deals, and generally, add value to players. But that was based on a long-standing relationship with Everton's chairman, Bill Kenwright, and David Moyes very much controlled the ship. Him and Bill worked intuitively, and take him out of that environment, like I say, and put him in with a brand new guy who's new to his own very senior role at a new club. I think there's always going to be a bit of a shaky start. So whilst, you're right, he has brought in players, I sort of hesitate to think he should be judged on his first couple of windows completely. Certainly in the contrast to how well he did at Everton, because I think that's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah. So, when Moyes first got the job, everybody was happy. Why not? But as time's gone on, people have started to question his credentials and look at his record as a manager. Were you surprised that he was picked to take over from Alex Ferguson?
Yeah, yes and no. I was surprised just because he'd been at Goodison 11 years. He'd done ever so well. He'd built up a huge groundswell of respect within the game. But I think if you looked at his CV in the cold, stark light of day, he hadn't won any trophies. He'd guided Everton to fourth place in 2005, which let's not forget is a huge achievement, especially when you think back to 2005 and the state of Everton Football Club then, in terms of the finances and the players he had available. And he got them to a cup final. He got them to a couple of semi-finals. But I think, say, if you weighed up that CV alongside, I don't know, Mourinho or Van Gaal or some of the other managers who might have been around at the time, to that degree, I was a little bit surprised. But then I wasn't, because you could always tell how well he was thought of at Old Trafford. It was clear that Alex Ferguson had a tremendous amount of affection and respect and admiration for him. And in many ways, the word behind the scenes had been, was it a done deal for a while? Was it something that was certainly being discussed whilst Moyes was in the final year of his contract at Goodison? So it was a bit conflicting emotions, to be honest, a little bit of surprise, and then a little bit of kind of, acceptance that maybe that had been on the cards.
Yeah. Looking back at your time under Moyes compared to your season this year under Martinez, have you reevaluated how well you thought he did?
I haven't reevaluated how well I thought he did. I still think that he deserves immense credit for what he did in terms of dragging Everton from the doldrums of being perennial mid-table or lower, often actually relegation sort of dogfights, into a team that consistently finished in the top 5-6 places in Europe. But maybe how he did it more. And in terms of that, obviously, it's his tactical setups, it's the way he sends his teams out, it's the more cautious parts of his nature as a tactician. And I think if you contrast that to what Evertonians have got this season in Roberto Martinez, I would say many of them would feel that it's more entertaining to watch Martinez sides.
What's changed this season, aside from the style of play? And in what aspect do you think that Martinez has improved the style of play?
There seems to be a different feel around the club. I don't know if it's just because 11 years is a long time to be at a club, and maybe there was a feeling all around that Moyes had taken Everton as far as he could. But there's a whole freshness about the place, which partly is just natural. And I think partly it's down to the enthusiasm and the vigour that Martinez has for the job. He's come in there, he's embraced the local media. He's got everybody on side. He's a very kind of charming, charismatic guy who has become an instant hit with the fans. And, tactically, he's changed the way that the team plays. And, I mean, that hasn't been without its critics either. Everton have lost to Derby 4-0, which Moyes never would have done at Anfield, I should say. There've been times when they've looked really kind of vulnerable, especially in the early few games, and this commitment to attacking football has been something that's been Evertonians conversely have had to get their head around. But when it works really well. We saw the 3-0 win over Arsenal a couple of weekends ago, and just the style of play is really compelling and entertaining to watch. And I think Martinez is committed to winning football matches, and whether it's Moyes' approach was always maybe if he had a point and the game wasn't going in his side's favour, it would be like, what we have, we hold. Maybe he would set up to not lose. Martinez, to me, always sets up to win.
You touched on the media a minute ago. As a member of the media, you've worked with both characters. How do you feel they differ, and what are they like from your side of the game?
Yeah, I mean, my previous experience as a football journalist, I'd only been covering Everton under David Moyes, so I didn't know a lot different. I know that Moyes had his ups and downs with the local press. He had his ups and downs with the national press. A lot of them are very fond of him. Then often it could be quite a fraught relationship. Press conferences could be quite terse now and again, and a little bit difficult. I say in contrast, Martinez is a lot more kind of enthusiastic about dealing with, especially the local media, and largely that's all I can speak for. And he's certainly embraced that aspect of trying to communicate to the fans by speaking to the Liverpool Echo, and that's something we feel obviously very positive about as well, given that that's our meet and drink, and that dynamics work quite well. So that's quite different. But
do you think they differ in the way they deal with the media to the way they deal with the players, in terms of Moyes not necessarily engaging with the press, but perhaps he does so with the players, or vice versa with Martinez?
It's a good question. I mean, it's a difficult one to answer because, I've never been in the dressing room under either manager, and obviously I know the players very well. What I will say is that on and off the record, none of the Everton players have had a bad word to say about David Moyes. They're not going around. It's not like they're going around saying, "Thank God he's gone. He was a nightmare. We've got someone who really listens to us, touchy-feely." It's not like that at all. They've not gone around bad-mouthing Moyes. If anything, they're still, got a degree of loyalty to him. However, from my point of view, Martinez has more of a natural warmth and more of like I said, an enthusiasm for dealing with the press, which I think is important, and I think it's a part now of any Premier League football manager's job to use the press to try and help push the brand and push the image of your club.
Okay, last question then, Greg, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
How do you think David Moyes will do in the future? And are you worried that if he's deemed a failure, we'll swoop in for Martinez?
I think David Moyes will come good given time. Whether he gets that time, I'm not sure. I guess a lot of it depends on United fans. Obviously, when you had all the carry-on of the plane flying over Old Trafford, it seemed the response was actually quite supportive of Moyes, in the same way as I could imagine Evertonians would be if I relate that situation to times when it was difficult at Goodison. I think they would rally around him because he is a decent man. He's someone who works extremely hard, tirelessly. I mean, you wouldn't get anyone who's more committed to his job, someone who puts in longer hours and cares more about it. So I certainly think he deserves more time in terms of, at the end of this season, he deserves another summer, he deserves another pre-season to try and get things right. Whether then would that be scared of losing Martinez? with respect, I'd be more scared of losing Martinez to a club like Barcelona the way he's going, because I think in his long-term plan, you know, if he were honest, he's a Catalan, he's proud, he absolutely adores Barcelona and everything to do with them. And I think maybe that's where he sees his career trajectory. But clearly, you know, a Club United size, you're always to a degree scared of losing top players or successful coaches to them.
Yeah, cool. Well, Greg, thank you very much for giving us the Everton side of David Moyes.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
You have lost the fans tonight. You don't deserve the fans. You don't deserve anything from this club. You got the job on a technicality of a legend who recommended you. You are nothing, you are a fool, and you are a waste of time. Good night.